Sareem had always trusted machines more than people. At 25, with a career already soaring at a top tech firm, his life was all about designing navigation systems and futuristic aircraft instruments. He understood the cold, hard logic of code and the predictable physics of flight. People, not so much. That's why it felt so ironic, almost like a cosmic joke. Thitti found himself boarding a passenger plane for the first real vacation he'd taken in years. The sky outside was beautiful, a gentle, warm gold brushed with soft, lazy clouds. The engines hummed a steady, powerful tune beneath his feet as he walked down the aisle, a sound that usually brought him comfort. He found his seat, a window seat, perfect for an engineer like him. He slid his backpack under the seat in front, sank into his own, and let out a long, slow breath. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt a sense of freedom. The endless meetings, the late nights staring at code, all of it just melted away. But his quiet moment didn't last long. A voice, clear and confident, cut through his thoughts. "Is this seat taken?" Sorian looked up. A woman stood beside him, probably in her early 20s, with an air of confidence that was almost magnetic. Her brown eyes were bright and full of life. "Katie," she added, offering a small, friendly smile. "Window seats. They give me a bit of anxiety." Sareem found himself chuckling. An actual, genuine laugh. "It's all yours," he said, already starting to unbuckle his seatbelt. "I actually love watching the engines work. I can do that just as well." From the aisle, he enjoyed the intricate dance of the flaps and ailerons, the sheer power on display. Before Katie could even reply, another friendly face popped into view from the row behind them. A young woman with a mischievous grin. "You must be Serene, right? I'm Sophia. Just so you know, if she steals your seat, I'm officially stealing your snacks." Sareem laughed again, feeling a warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the cabin temperature. That sounds like a fair deal to me. It was strange. He'd been on the plane for less than 5 minutes and had already spoken to more strangers than he usually did in a week. Then, a guy from across the aisle, who must have overheard them, stretched his arms wide. "This is going to be the best trip ever," he declared with infectious optimism. "I can just feel it." That was Jack. Sareem smiled. The atmosphere was light, hopeful. It felt like the perfect start to a much-needed break. He didn't realize it then, couldn't possibly have known just how prophetic Jack's words would become. Because within a few short hours, their lives, and the very world as they knew it, were about to change forever. The flight was smooth for the first 3 hours. The cabin was filled with the low murmur of conversation, the quiet rustle of magazines, and the gentle hum of the engines. Sareem had his laptop out, but for once, he wasn't working. He was just idly sketching out a new concept for a drone stabilizer, letting his mind wander. And that's when he noticed it. A flicker. The navigation display mounted on the bulkhead above the cabin, the one showing their flight path over the ocean, just flickered. Once. Then twice, before stabilizing again as if nothing had happened. A cold knot formed in Sareem's stomach. That shouldn't happen. Those systems are triple redundant. They're designed with countless failsafes to prevent exactly that kind of glitch. He leaned closer to his new window, peering outside. What he saw made his blood run cold. The sky, which had been a clear, brilliant blue just moments ago, had darkened with an alarming, unnatural speed. It was as if someone had flipped a switch, plunging the world from midday into a deep, gloomy twilight. Below them, a massive, swirling vortex of storm clouds was forming. But something about it was profoundly wrong. Storms are chaotic, messy things. This was organized. The shape was too perfect. a near-symmetrical circle, rotating with a chilling, mechanical precision. It wasn't a weather pattern. It looked like a machine, a giant atmospheric gear grinding away in the sky. Sophia leaned forward, her voice a nervous whisper right by his ear. "That doesn't look normal." "Because it isn't," Sarim whispered back, his eyes glued to the impossible sight. His engineer's brain was screaming, running through every meteorological model he'd ever studied. None of them accounted for this. This was something new. Something alien. Then, the plane jolted. Hard. A violent shudder that ran through the entire fuselage. A few scattered screams erupted from the cabin. With a sudden hiss, the oxygen masks dropped from the panels above, dangling like strange yellow fruit. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, strung and tight with a panic he was desperately trying to conceal. We're experiencing some unexpected turbulence. All passengers, please, remain seated and brace for the announcement was cut short by a deafening flash of brilliant blue light that filled the entire cabin. So bright it was blinding. Sarim felt the plane dip violently, a sickening lurch as his stomach lifted into his throat. Gravity seemed to abandon them, replaced by an unseen force that was pulling them down, down, down. The storm wasn't just below them anymore. It was all around them. It was sucking the massive aircraft downward like a toy boat in a whirlpool. Streaks of lightning, not white or yellow, but a surreal neon blue and purple, spiraled around the wings in incandescent ribbons. The cabin was chaos. Katie, who had been so calm and confident, grabbed his arm, her knuckles white. Across the aisle, Jack was instinctively shielding his head with his arms. Behind them, Sarim could hear Sophia muttering prayers under her breath, her voice trembling. He braced himself against the seat in front of him, his mind racing faster than ever before. This wasn't turbulence. This wasn't a storm. This was an event. A phenomenon that defied all known laws of physics and nature. Another flash, even brighter than the first. The entire world inside the cabin blazed white, a pure, absolute whiteness that erased everything. And then, just as suddenly, everything went silent. The roar of the engines, the shrieking of the wind, the screams of the passengers, all of it gone. Replaced by a profound, unnerving silence. And then, darkness. Complete and total. Thank you for watching. If you're captivated by this story and need to know what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the next chapter. See you then. Sarim awoke to the scent of salt water and warm sand. His ears rang, a high, persistent whine that seemed to come from inside his own skull. His vision swam, a blurry mess of color and light. He blinked, once, twice, trying to force the world into focus. When it finally cleared, he found himself lying on a beach. But this wasn't like any beach he had ever seen on Earth. The sand, 4-1, shimmered faintly with iridescent particles, like crushed opals scattered across the shore. It was soft, almost like silk beneath his fingertips. He looked out at the ocean. It glowed, a vibrant, impossible turquoise, as if a colossal light source was hidden deep beneath the waves. The water lapped gently at the shore, each wave leaving a trail of sparkling foam that lingered for a moment before fading. He pushed himself up, his muscles aching with a protest he didn't understand. He looked around, his gaze sweeping across the alien landscape. Strange, tall plants twisted toward the sky, their forms more like sculpture than anything botanical. Their leaves, wide and deep green, pulsed with a soft, rhythmic bioluminescence, casting a gentle, ethereal light onto the shimmering sand. He was surrounded by a forest of these glowing flora, their silent, slow dance, the only movement besides the ocean. He checked himself over. His clothes were damp but intact. No cuts, no bruises, just a profound sense of dislocation. He was alone. Where with everyone? The last thing he remembered was the shudder of the ship, the piercing shriek of alarms, the chaos. The star freighter, the Wanderer, had been hit by something. A meteoroid shower. A pirate attack. He couldn't recall. The memories were fractured like broken glass. He remembered the desperate scramble for the escape pods. The shouts of the crew. The face of his co-pilot, Anya, her eyes wide with fear. But here, there were no bodies, no wreckage, no sign of the Wanderer or its 100-strong crew. Just peace, an unsettling, absolute tranquility that felt more dangerous than any storm. He stood up, his boots sinking into the warm, glittering sand. The air was clean, carrying the salty tang of the sea, mixed with a sweet, floral scent from the glowing plants. 2 suns hung in the sky, in one, a familiar warm yellow, the other, a smaller, brilliant white star that cast sharp, twin shadows on the ground. The sky itself was a shade of deep violet, dotted with unfamiliar constellations. It was undeniably not on Earth, not even in a known system. This was somewhere new, somewhere uncharted. The thought should have terrified him, but a strange calm settled over him. Perhaps it was shock. Perhaps it was the serene beauty of the place. He took a few steps toward the glowing forest, his curiosity overriding his caution. The plant life was even more bizarre up close. Some resembled massive, spiraling seashells, their surfaces covered in glowing moss. Others were like giant, feathery ferns that swayed in a breeze he couldn't feel. Small, winged creatures, like dragonflies made of pure light, flitted between the pulsating leaves, their movements silent and graceful. You reached out to touch one of the twisting stalks. It felt warm and vibrated with a low hum, a life force he could almost feel singing in his bones. He had to find out what happened. Where was he? Were the others here? He turned his back on the forest and walked along the shoreline, his eyes scanning the horizon. The glowing turquoise ocean stretched out to infinity, made in the violet sky in a seamless blend of color. The beach seemed to go on forever in both directions, a ribbon of light between the sea and the strange woods. He felt a profound sense of isolation, a single, solitary being in an alien paradise. Was this a sanctuary or a prison? He kept walking. With every step, the ringing in his ears began to subside, repeated by the gentle hush of the waves and the faint hum of the plants. His thoughts started to clear. Survival was the priority. He needed to find water, shelter, and hopefully, answers held. He looked up at the 2 suns, trying to gauge the time of day, but the celestial mechanics here were a mystery. He hid his wits, his training as a long-haul spacer, and a standard-issue multi-tool clipped to his belt. It wasn't much, but it was a start. As he walked, he noticed something half buried in the sand ahead. His heart leaped. Wreckage. A piece of the ship broke into a run, the iridescent sand kicking up behind him. As he got closer, his hope faltered. It wasn't metal, it was a structure made of a smooth white material that looked like polished bone. It was an archway, elegantly carved with symbols he didn't recognize, but which felt vaguely familiar, like a half-remembered dream. It stood alone on the vast expanse of the beach, a gateway to nowhere. He approached it cautiously. The air around the archway felt different, heavier, too, charged with a static electricity that made the hairs on his arms stand up. Through the arch, the landscape looked the same, more beach, more glowing ocean. Yet, he felt a pull, a subtle invitation. Was this a trap? A relic of a long-lost civilization? Or something else entirely? He stood before it for a long time, the twin suns casting his double shadow onto the sand. Hugh thought of his crew, of Anya, of the life he'd left behind. Was there a way back? Did this archway hold the key? He had no supplies, no map, and no idea what dangers this world held. All he had was a choice. Stay on this strange, beautiful beach and hope for a rescue that might never come, or step through the mysterious portal and face the unknown. The peace of this place was seductive, but it was the peace of a gilded cage. He wanted answers. He wanted to know if he was truly the sole survivor. With a deep breath, Sarim took a step forward, his hand outstretched, ready to touch the smooth, ancient surface of the arch. The shimmering sand, the glowing sea, the pulsing forest, it was all beautiful, but it wasn't home. He had to find his way back, and his journey was only just beginning. A hand touched his shoulder. "Thought you died on me," Sophia said softly. She looked shaken but unharmed. Katie approached next, her face pale. "We can't find the plane." "Or anyone else. Just us four, Jess." Then Jack jogged from the tree line, breathless, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. "Guys, you need to see this." They followed him inland, pushing through the dense, unfamiliar foliage. The air was thick and humid, filled with the sounds of strange insects and birds. After a few minutes of trekking, they broke into a clearing, and what they found there stopped their breath. A floating structure, a massive crystalline ring, hovered silently above the forest floor. It was perfectly still, its surface shimmering like liquid metal under the dim light filtering through the canopy. Strange, intricate symbols danced across it, glowing like living light. Sarim, who had spent his entire life studying advanced engineering, felt his mind reel. He'd seen theoretical designs, pushed the boundaries of known physics, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had ever resembled this. It wasn't just advanced, it was alien. It was impossible. "What is it?" Katie whispered, her voice barely audible. Before Sarim could even begin to formulate a theory, a voice echoed around them. It wasn't spoken. It wasn't heard with their ears. It was felt, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to emanate from the very air they breathed, communicating directly with their minds. "Welcome, travelers." From the center of the floating ring, a figure emerged. It descended with an impossible grace, its form tall and luminous. Its skin was like polished silver, reflecting the dappled light of the forest. Its eyes were not single points of color, but swirling galaxies, deep and ancient. It was an alien. The being extended a hand, its palm glowing with a soft, warm light. The voice resonated in their minds again. "We are the Illyrians, guardians of Lumeria, the island, hidden between worlds." Awe washed over Sarim, silencing the frantic calculations of his engineering mind. He felt like a primitive man seeing fire for the first time. How did we get here?" he managed to ask, his own voice sounding small and fragile. The Illyrian's expression, though unreadable by human standards, seemed to convey a sense of calm reassurance. "You crossed a dimensional breach caused by the storm?" Jack, who had been staring with his mouth agape, finally whispered the thought that was screaming in all their minds. "We fell into another world." The Illyrian nodded slowly. "In a sense, yes." Zalian gestured for them to follow and led them towards the crystalline ring. As they stepped through its shimmering portal, the world dissolved. Light rewove itself around them like liquid dream. For a moment, Sarim felt completely weightless, timeless, detached from his physical body. It was a sensation of pure energy, of being broken down and rebuilt in an instant. Then, just as suddenly, they emerged. Thor, and the sight before them defied every law of physics they had ever known. They stood in a city. But it was a city of light and air. Floating walkways made of a similar crystalline material spiraled between towers of translucent stone that reached for a sky filled with two suns. Sleek, silent, hovering pods glided through the air on invisible pathways. Thora wasn't just green. Plants glowed in mesmerizing, color-shifting patterns. And most astonishingly, waterfalls flowed upside down, their streams drifting skyward before dissolving into a glittering mist that rained down a soft, sparkling light. Katie gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Sophia, her scientist's mind already working furiously, corrected her, her eyes wide with fascination. Highly advanced. This technology is thousands of years ahead of anything on Earth. Their guide, the Illyrian, seemed to confirm this with another slow nod. Redeveloped, in harmony with energy, not matter. We create through thought, not machine. Sareem's heart raced with a professional inspiration, so profound it was almost painful. Every structure, every mechanism, every system, it was all genius. Elegant, efficient. It was a symphony of engineering that was beyond anything humanity could even dream of. He felt like a child staring at the stars for the very first time, the universe suddenly revealing its infinite, beautiful complexity. This place wasn't just a new world. It was a new paradigm, a new way of existing. The Illyrian led them along one of the floating walkways. It felt solid under their feet, yet seemed to be made of nothing more than hardened light. Below them, other Illyrians moved with the same unhurried grace, their silver forms shimmering. They weren't walking. They were gliding. Your world relies on combustion, on friction, on brute force, the voice explained in their minds. You shape the physical to your will. We persuade energy to take the form we desire. Our city is not built. It is thought into being. Sareem looked at the spiraling towers again. He could see now that they weren't static. They subtly shifted, their internal structures flowing and rearranging like a slow-motion dance. They were alive. The entire city was alive. As they walked, Jack pointed to one of the skyward-flowing waterfalls. But why? Why make water flow up? We believe beauty is its own form of energy, one that nourishes the spirit. This simple, profound statement struck Sareem deeply. On Earth, engineering was a constant battle between form, function, and cost. Here, beauty was an integral component of function itself. It wasn't an afterthought. It was a foundational principle. Their guide led them into one of the translucent towers. The interior was even more breathtaking. There were no rooms in the conventional sense, but rather open spaces defined by curtains of light and gentle, humming energy fields. Furniture, if it could be called that, seemed to materialize from the floor as they approached sleek, comfortable forms that perfectly contoured to their bodies. You are weary, the Illyrian stated. Your biological forms require rest and sustenance. From a smooth, glowing surface, 4 vessels rose. They were filled with a faintly glowing, silver liquid. Katie hesitated. What is it? Nutrient synthesis, the Illyrian explained. It contains everything your bodies require. It is a direct energy transfer, more efficient than your method of digestion. Hesitantly, Sareem took a sip. It was tasteless. Yet he felt an immediate wave of warmth and vitality spread through him. The exhaustion from the crash and the trek through the jungle simply melted away. He felt better than he had in years, clear-headed, energized. Sophia was already analyzing it, a look of pure scientific wonder on her face. This could solve world hunger overnight. No farming, no supply chains. Just pure synthesized energy. As they finished their strange meal, the Illyrian turned its attention to Sareem. You are a creator. We feel the resonance of your thoughts. Sareem nodded, humbled. I'm an engineer. Your concepts are primitive, yet the spark of understanding is there, the Illyrian continued. You seek to build bridges between points. We simply fold the space between them. It gestured to the open air. Through it, Serene could see the very clearing they had just left. The Illyrian made a small, elegant gesture with its hand, and the portal closed as silently as it had opened. Not just advanced technology, but a complete mastery over the fundamental forces of the universe. Space, time, energy, matter. They were all just different instruments in the Illyrian's cosmic orchestra. A sense of despair mingled with Serene's. What could humanity possibly offer in return? Their struggles, their wars, their greatest achievements, it all seemed so small, so insignificant in the face of this reality. Seth, if sensing his thoughts, the Illyrian's voice gently filled his mind. Do not despair, builder. Every civilization begins with a single step. For the first time since the plane went down, Serene felt a flicker of something he hadn't realized was gone. Hope. Not just hope for survival, but hope for the future. Abiv. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a plane full of people just vanished into thin air? Not crashed, not hijacked, but simply disappeared. That's the terrifying reality for Serene, Katie, Sophia, and Jack. One moment they were flying over the ocean. The next, they were standing in a city that shimmered with an otherworldly light, a place called Illyria. In the heart of this alien city floats the Illyrian core, a radiant, pulsating sphere of energy. It's the life source of this hidden world, the very thing that keeps it separate and safe from our own. But something is wrong. The core is flickering, unstable, and the gentle, elegant aliens who call this place home are desperate. An alien guide explains the horrifying truth. Flu. The dimensional breach that brought the humans here has damaged the core. If it isn't stabilized, the barrier between their world and ours will collapse. The two realities will merge, and the result will be catastrophic for everyone. And the worst part, the humans' arrival, while accidental, was the final push that set this disaster in motion. Just as despair sets in, a flicker of hope emerges. Serene, an engineer back on Earth, looks at the failing core and sees something familiar. It's not just a ball of light, it's a system losing equilibrium. Key recognizes the patterns, the chaotic fluctuations of a machine on the brink of failure. The aliens are shocked. They're scientists, philosophers, and artists, but their technology is different. Based on harmony and intention, not cold mechanics. They don't have engineers like Serene. Suddenly, the weight of two worlds settles on Serene's shoulders. He's not just a passenger on a lost flight anymore. He might be their only hope. With a deep breath, he agrees to help. What follows is an incredible journey of discovery. The humans, once terrified survivors, now have a purpose. Serene dives headfirst into the impossible, studying energy matrices that defy human physics. He finds that Illyrian engineering is like conducting an orchestra of energy and thought. It's fluid, intuitive, and strangely, it feels natural to him, as if he was born to understand it. Katie, ever the pragmatist, analyzes the environmental impact of the weakening barrier, trying to predict the chaos of a potential world merge. Sophia, the chronicler, works alongside alien scientists, meticulously documenting their history, their technology, and their culture, preserving knowledge that could be lost forever. And Jack, with his infectious optimism, becomes a surprising asset, boosting morale among the alien technicians with his can-do attitude and endless energy. Working side by side with the Illyrians, Serene begins to understand the core on a deeper level. It's alive, he realizes. It feels the world. The core isn't just a machine. It's a sentient heart, responding to the harmony or disharmony of the people around it. An Illyrian specialist notes that Serene's own energy is pure and balanced, making him uniquely suited for this task. This quiet, unassuming engineer might just have the right kind of mind. The perfect blend of human logic and intuitive harmony. To bridge the gap between these two wildly different approaches to science. But time is running out. The flickers in the core are growing more erratic. Strange environmental phenomena are starting to appear in both worlds, signs that the barrier is already beginning to fray at the edges. They're no longer just trying to prevent a future catastrophe, they are living in the first moments of it. Sareem and his new allies race against the clock, sketching out blueprints that blend human mechanics with Illyrian resonance, fear, designing something that has never existed before, a solution born from the collision of two worlds. It's a blueprint of impossible technology. A desperate gamble to save everything they know and everything they've just discovered. The pressure is immense. Every calculation has to be perfect. Every adjustment to the core could either stabilize it or shatter it completely. The team is exhausted, running on adrenaline and the sheer will to survive. Tensions rise as the stakes get higher. Can a human engineer, using alien principles he's only just learned, really fix a living machine that holds the fate of two realities in its balance? They're about to find out. The moment comes when theories and blueprints must become action. Sareem stands before the pulsating, unstable core, tools in hand, the hopes of two civilizations resting on his shoulders. He has to tune this cosmic instrument before it tears both of their worlds apart. The Illyrians gather, their collective consciousness focused on him, lending him their mental harmony. Katie, Sophia, and Jack stand with him, a united front of humanity, ready to face the consequences, whatever they may be. What happens next will change everything. Will Sareem's desperate plan work? Will they be able to restore the balance? Or will their efforts only accelerate the end? The answer lies in the heart of the Illyrian core, and in the courage of a small group of humans who fell from the sky and found themselves with the responsibility of saving two worlds. One night, long after the others had drifted off to sleep, a lone figure made his way back to the heart of the island, the core chamber. It was Sareem. He settled himself before the immense, glowing sphere, letting its ethereal light wash over his face, illuminating the worry etched there. The chamber was silent, save for the gentle hum of the core itself. Then, soft footsteps broke the quiet. It was Sophia. She sat beside him, her presence a comforting weight in the darkness. "You're scared," she stated, not as a question, but as a simple fact. Sareem hesitated, the words catching in his throat. Finally, he let them tumble out, a cascade of fear and self-doubt. What if I fail? What if all this was for nothing, and the island collapses anyway? What if we never get to go home? The questions hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Sophia didn't offer empty platitudes. Instead, she smiled, a gentle, knowing curve of her lips. You don't have to be a perfect hero, Sareem. You don't have to carry the weight of two worlds all by yourself. You just have to show up. You just have to try. And you've already saved us once. Remember. You got us this far. Her words were like a warm current, pushing back against the tide of his fear. They didn't erase his doubts, but they gave him something solid to hold on to. A warmth bloomed in his chest, a flicker of belief. And for the very first time since crashing into this strange, luminous world, Sareem felt a genuine spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could do this. Maybe he could truly save this world. That fragile hope was put to the test sooner than anyone could have imagined. The very next morning, the world began to unravel. A violent tremor shook the island to its foundations, not like an earthquake, but like the entire structure of reality was being torn apart. Above them, the sky didn't just darken, it cracked. Great, jagged streaks of fracturing light split the heavens, revealing glimpses of a terrifying void beyond. The barrier between their worlds, the very fabric separating their reality from this one, was breaking. Panic erupted among their graceful, luminous bodies, normally a steady beacon of light, began to flicker and dim, like dying embers. The elegant, crystalline buildings around them destabilized, their structures groaning and shifting, threatening to shatter into a million pieces. The streams of pure energy that crisscrossed the island twisted into violent vortexes. "We're out of time!" Jack's voice comunicación, a desperate shout over the growing cacophony of destruction. The end wasn't coming. War's already here. There was no time for fear, no time for hesitation. Fueled by adrenaline, Serim sprinted towards the central platform, his feet pounding the trembling ground. He was no longer just a lost scientist, he was a commander. His voice rang out, clear and steady amidst the chaos. "Kati, get to the console. Stabilize the outer frequency. Now, Sophia, I need you on the resonance grid. Align it, keep it. Jack, the power conduits are fluctuating. Keep them open, no matter what." They moved a single, cohesive unit. Years of working together in the lab, Project Aussie, the theoretical, had forged them into an incredible team. Now, in the face of annihilation, that bond was Negahov's lifeline. They were a symphony of desperate, synchronized action. Katie's fingers flew across her console. Sophia wrestled with the holographic grid. And Jack rerouted power with practiced ease. It was flawless, it was synchronized, and it was born of sheer desperation. At the center of it all, the core pulsed violently, its light spasming in a sickening rhythm. It was a dying heart. Every beat sent another shudder of destruction through the island. Time was up. The technical solutions weren't enough. Serene closed his eyes, shutting out the terrifying spectacle of a world tearing itself apart. He had one last, insane idea. One final, desperate gambit. He reached out, not with his hands, but with his mind. He didn't try to force the core, to command it. Instead, he projected the one thing this chaotic, dying world lacked: calm. He focused his thoughts, filtering out the fear, the noise, the panic. He envisioned harmony, a perfect, steady rhythm. And the core responded. Slowly, miraculously, its erratic, violent pulses began to soften. It was like a wild, stampeding animal, gentling at a soft touch. Thor's chaotic waves started to sync with the steady, calm rhythm of Serim's own heartbeat. Its glow brighter, purer, steadier. The Illyrians, who had been scattering in terror, still day turns, their flickering forms toward the platform, watching in silent, breathless awe. "He's bonding with it," one of them whispered, their voice filled with a reverence Serim had never heard before. "It chose him," breathed another. Serim felt the connection palavrous, a current of immense, ancient energy flowing into him, and his own consciousness flowing back into it. He pushed harder, not with force, but with a total surrender of himself. He poured everything he was into the core, every memory. From his childhood fairs to the feel of sun on his face back on Earth, every emotion, the joy, the sorrow, the love for his friends standing beside him, every hope he had for their survival, for the survival of this beautiful, fragile world. He gave it all. The light from the core swelled, growing brighter and brighter until it consumed everything in a silent, blinding, white explosion. It was a light without heat, without sound, a pure expression of creation. Then, as quickly as it came, it faded. And when the radiance finally settled and they could see again, the world was still. The trembling had stopped. Serim looked up. The sky, once a fractured mess, was whole again, a seamless, peaceful blue. The island was stable, its energy streams in gentle, harmonious currents. The Illyrians, their forms now glowing with a steady, brilliant light, slowly knelt. They bowed not in fear, but in gratitude. The guide, the first Illyrian they had ever met, approached the platform. His voice was soft, filled with a quiet, profound respect. "You didn't just save our world," he said, his gaze fixed on Sareem. "You saved both worlds. The crisis was over. The island, and its people, were safe." And in the quiet that followed, Sareem, Jack, Katie, and Sophia stood together, survivors who had become saviors. Finally able to take a breath, their two worlds forever connected by an unbreakable bond. Thirds. The first rays of dawn painted the strange, ethereal landscape in shades of gold and rose. The air, thick with the scent of unknown blossoms and a faint hum of energy, felt both ancient and alive. We stood before the dimensional ring, a colossal structure of shimmering, liquid-like metal that pulsed with a soft inner light. Our Illyrian guides, tall and graceful beings with eyes like molten silver, escorted us to its edge. Their movements were fluid, their presence calming, a stark contrast to the whirlwind of emotions churning inside me. "You may return home now," one of the guides said, their voice a melodic chime that resonated deep within my bones. "Your plane and your fellow passengers will be restored to your world, safe and unaware of this detour." The words hung in the air, a promise of safety, but also a final farewell. Katie, her face streaked with dirt and awe, wiped a tear from her eye. "I'll miss this place," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I looked around at the crystalline trees, the floating islands in the distance, the sky that held two suns. It was a world torn from the pages of a fantasy novel, a place we had stumbled into by accident, a place that had changed us forever. Sophia, ever the pragmatic one, simply nodded. Her gaze was distant, as if she were replaying every lesson, every revelation, in her mind. "We learned so much," she agreed softly. And we had. We'd learned about cosmic energies, about the interconnectedness of all life, about civilizations that existed beyond the veil of our understanding. We'd seen wonders that our minds were still struggling to process. He clapped me on the back, his enthusiasm infectious. "Best adventure ever," he declared, his eyes sparkling with the thrill of it all. For him, this wasn't an end, but a beginning. He'd stared into the face of the impossible and hadn't flinched. He'd found a new definition of excitement. Then, the lead guide turned their silver gaze to me. "Sareem, you carry our knowledge now," they said, their tone shifting from gentle to solemn. "The principles of cosmic engineering, the understanding of the dimensional fabric. Use it wisely." I felt the weight of that responsibility settle onto my shoulders, a mantle far heavier than my simple engineer's toolkit. I placed my hand over my heart, a gesture that felt wholly inadequate but was all I could offer. "I will," I promised, my voice steadier than I expected. "I will honor it." The guide offered a slight, almost imperceptible nod. A signal was given, and the great ring before us began to hum louder. The liquid metal swirled, faster and faster, until the archway was no longer a gate to the Illyrian landscape, but a blinding vortex of pure white light. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. The light reached out, enveloping us, swallowing us whole. There was no sensation of movement, just a complete and total immersion in brilliance. I opened my eyes, blinking against a much softer, more familiar light. Below. Steady drone of jet engines replaced the melodic hum of the dimensional ring. I was back in my seat, on the plane. I looked around, my heart pounding in my chest. The other passengers were sleeping peacefully, their heads resting against pillows, blankets drawn up to their chins. There was no sign of the violent, reality-tearing storm that had thrown us off course. Outside the window, the sky was a deep, tranquil blue, dotted with the first stars of twilight. The storm was gone. It was as if it had never been. A whisper broke the silence. Sareem, Katie was leaning over the aisle, her eyes wide, searching mine for an answer. Was any of that real? Before I could answer, Sophia's hand shot to her pocket. Her expression was one of dawning realization. Slowly, she pulled her hand out. Resting in her palm was a small, multifaceted crystal. It wasn't dazzling, but it held a soft, internal glow, pulsing with a gentle, rhythmic light, like a tiny, captured star. It was a piece of Illyria, a souvenir from another dimension. Yes, Sophia whispered, her voice filled with a reverence I'd never heard from her before. She looked from the crystal to me, to Katie, a silent confirmation passing between us. It was. A loud groan came from the seat behind me, his long limbs unfolding like a cat waking from a nap. He yawned, then froze. He looked at his hands, turning them over and over. A slow, mischievous grin spread across his face. Guys, he said, his voice low and conspiratorial. I think we're superheroes now. A laugh. Not a chuckle, not a nervous sound, but a deep, genuine laugh that came from the very core of my being. It bubbled up and spilled out, full of relief and absurdity, and pure, unadulterated joy. Katie and Sophia started laughing too, a cascade of disbelief and giddiness that was probably way too loud for a sleeping cabin. But we couldn't stop, because in that moment, everything had shifted. I wasn't just Sareem, the quiet, meticulous aerospace engineer who preferred schematics to people. I was Sareem, who had walked on an alien world. Sareem, who had spoken with beings of immense wisdom. Sareem, who now understood that the universe was infinitely larger and more complex than any equation could ever describe. I was part of something bigger. Something cosmic. Something truly, unbelievably, extraordinary. Touching down was surreal. Walking through the airport, surrounded by the mundane hustle and bustle, felt like watching a movie of my old life. The announcements, the rolling suitcases, the smell of coffee, it was all so normal. It was jarring. We said our goodbyes at the baggage claim, a quiet, knowing look passing between the four of us. No words were needed. We were a secret society of four, bound by an experience no one else would ever understand. Now, I'm home. My family was overjoyed to see me, full of questions about the flight delay, the bad weather the airline had reported. I tell them a simplified version, a story of turbulence and a necessary diversion. How could I ever explain the truth? How could I explain to my kids that their dad now knows how to build a machine that can fold space and time? I sit in my study at night, the familiar comfort of my books and models surrounding me. But my mind isn't here. It's light years away, in a city of crystal and light. I close my eyes and I can see them, the silver-eyed Illyrians, their graceful forms moving through glowing corridors. I can feel the weight of their knowledge in my mind, a vast library of cosmic secrets waiting to be explored. I can hear Jack's boisterous laugh, see Katie's awestruck face, and feel the steady, reassuring presence of Sophia by my side. Sometimes I trace the patterns on my desk, my fingers instinctively mapping out the energy flows of a dimensional engine. I sketch designs for devices that could harness stellar energy. Concepts that would revolutionize my world, but that I can never share. I am a keeper of secrets, a bridge between two worlds. And I remember my friends. My fellow travelers, too. I wonder if Jack is testing his newfound word dare it is. Is he trying to leap a little higher, run a little faster? I picture Sophia in a lab somewhere, the glowing crystal on her desk, as she tries to reconcile the physics of our world with the magic of another. I hope Katie is looking up at the night sky, not just seeing stars, but seeing possibilities. Life is different now. It's quieter on the outside, but infinitely louder on the inside. The world still turns. My family still needs me. My job still demands my attention. But underneath it all, there's a new current, a new energy. I'm not just an engineer anymore. I am a traveler, a student, a guardian. I am part of a story that spans galaxies. And every night, as I look up at the stars, I smile. Because I know what's out there. And I know that our incredible, impossible adventure was only the beginning. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Tales from the Edge of Reality.